Picture this. You've just stepped out of a time machine, and you find yourself in the bustling streets of colonial America. The air is filled with the aroma of fresh bread from the baker's oven, the sound of horses' hooves clattering on cobblestones, and, wait, what's that other smell? Oh, right. It's the stench of a society that hasn't quite figured out the whole hygiene thing yet. Welcome to the 18th century, where the fashion is fabulous. The food is, well, it's food, and the hygiene habits would make a skunk faint. If you thought your roommate's month-old pizza box was bad, buckle up, because we're about to dive into the unbelievable hygiene customs of colonial America. What hygiene was like in colonial America? Oh, the 18th century, when cleanliness took a back seat to survival and the luxury of a daily shower was a distant dream. Can you imagine mustering the energy for a few baths a year? Yes, that's right. In colonial America, bathing was believed to strip essential oils from the skin and even invite diseases. So the idea of daily showers as we indulge in now was unheard of. Instead, the norm was to wash hands and faces, but beyond that, bathing was a rare event. Now, picture yourself in the shoes of a colonial resident. The prospect of a bath involved more than turning a faucet. It meant laborious preparation. First, you'd have to build a fire and haul heavy tubs of water from the nearest source, a back-breaking task that could take hours. And forget about a private, cozy space. Bathing was a communal affair. Mid-Atlantic colonials might have mustered the energy for 3 or 4 baths a year, while New Englanders, braving the chill of their climate, might have managed 1 body wash. As you can imagine, the resulting odor would have been quite overpowering. But let's not judge too quickly. If they had wished for daily baths like we do, it would have been quite the ordeal. Unlike our modern showers, their hygiene was very different. If we have temperature-controlled water and scented products, well, they don't have that. Their bathing start with building a fire and hauling heavy tubs of water. It was a laborious task that could take hours to prepare for the bath. Furthermore, the concept of a private bathing area was a luxury they couldn't afford. Harsh homemade lye soap, if you were lucky enough to have it, served as your cleaning companion. Otherwise, it was water to do the job. But don't expect a fluffy Egyptian cotton towel to dry off. Colonial towels were whatever cloth they could find. And here's an exciting twist. Bathing was a family affair. The men of the household would bathe first, followed by the women, and finally, the children. When the baby's turn came around, the water was so murky that "don't throw the baby out with the bathwater" held literal significance. Once the bath was done, the water had to be hauled away and discarded. And despite all the effort, they would get dressed back into the same dirty, smelly clothes. Those shirts are the shirts that had been worn, because laundering their clothes was a whole other laborious task. In this era, elegance and filth coexisted, and life differed from our 21st century comforts. So, the next time you step into your modern shower, bask in the luxury of running water and the array of scented products. Be thankful for the little things we often take for granted. It wasn't long ago that getting clean required tremendous effort and time. Brace yourself for the next chapter, as we uncover even more surprising customs that shaped the world of hygiene in colonial America, from Basin Rituals to tiny tubs. As the sun rose, the town came alive with the rustling of footsteps and the soft murmur of daily chores. Inside their modest homes, families started their day with a simple cleansing ritual. A basin of cool water sat on a wooden stand, ready for morning ablutions. Can you imagine starting your day feeling awake and revitalized with a water basin? Each family member turned to dampen a cloth in the basin and wiped their faces and hands, refreshing themselves after a night's rest. This was a common practice to start the day feeling awake. But wait, the littlest ones were treated differently. Infants were given regular baths, not for cleanliness, mind you, but to toughen their young bodies for life's challenges ahead. It was a believed practice, and parents bathed their babies for this particular purpose. Now, when it came to full-body baths, that was a different story altogether. Full-body baths were a rarity for adults and older children. A proper bathtub was a luxury only a few could afford, often reserved for the wealthier members of the community. These tubs were not significant as we know them today, but were small and utilitarian. These are often big enough for a sponge bath. Soap, a prized commodity of the time, was used due to its cost and availability. Most people relied on water and friction to cleanse their bodies. And soap was a luxury beyond the means of the average person. How about during the scorching summer months? How people sought relief from the heat in nearby streams or lakes? Well, they would wade into the calm waters, taking dips and splashing around. They do this to enjoy the respite from the sweltering weather. But this was more of a leisure activity than a cleansing ritual, as the primary purpose was to cool off and have fun. As the day progressed, the town came alive with various trades and activities. The air filled with the aromas of bustling markets and the melodic sounds of work being done. Despite the limited hygiene practices of the time, they took pride in maintaining cleanliness within their means. So imagine yourself in this charming colonial town, where simple rituals and resourceful practices shaped daily life. From the morning basin of water to the treasured baths in small tubs, every act was a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of the people. Cleansing the soul, washing the body. Get ready for the intertwined notion of hygiene with their ingrained beliefs where the Puritan inhabitants of a small colonial village settled along the rugged coastline of New England. As the morning sun cast its soft glow upon the thatched rooftops, the townspeople began their day, guided by the profound conviction that cleanliness not only contributed to their well-being, but also reflected their spiritual standing in the eyes of God. Abigail is a devout Puritan woman with a stern countenance and a heart of piety. She stepped outside her modest dwelling to face the day's chores. Before attending to her daily tasks, she followed the morning washing of her hands and face, and reciting prayers with each splash of water. This was her ritual. To her and her fellow Puritans, cleanliness was not a hygienic practice. It was a sacred duty to keep their bodies pure and untainted, free from the devil's temptations. As the villagers' routine echoed their religious leaders' teachings, Reverend Samuel was a man of stern demeanor and unyielding faith, preached about the profound connection between personal hygiene and moral virtue. From the pulpit of the village church, he declared that uncleanliness was the same as sin, and those who neglected their cleanliness risked straying from the path of righteousness. Throughout the village, this belief manifested, adhering to a routine of washing hands and faces, a symbolic purification of both body and soul. They sought to wash away not only the dirt from their skin, but also any impurities that might lead them astray from their devout faith. Even the village doctor, Dr. Jonathan, grappled with this religious belief, underpinnings of hygiene in his medical practice. As a man of science and reason, he had studied the varying opinions among practitioners of the time. While some believed in the therapeutic properties of oils, others insisted on the importance of cleanliness to prevent illness. Dr. Jonathan understood the significance of hygiene in maintaining good health. Yet he could not escape the overwhelming presence of a religious ideology, believing that it is uncleanliness with sin. In this colonial village, Protestantism's intertwining of uncleanliness with sin was not a mere theological concept, but a guiding principle that shaped the daily lives of its people. Their unwavering belief in the divine significance of cleanliness is unbelievable. It even propelled them forward, uniting them in pursuing moral virtue and spiritual cleanliness. Stay tuned as we continue our exploration of colonial America's hygiene, dental care hygiene. In colonial America, dental hygiene was a far cry from the advanced dental care we have today. With no real dentists available, where do you think those experiencing toothaches are asking for help? Well, they often sought relief from barbers, surgeons, apothecaries, or even blacksmiths. But before such drastic measures were taken, people turned to nature's remedies to numb the pain. Fig leaves, chamomile, alcohol, and even opium were among the curious concoctions to dull the discomfort. Regular teeth cleaning and care were not top priorities in the colonial era. The common practice for a missing tooth was to replace it with dentures or implants. Dentures are fashioned from animal teeth, wood, ivory, and metal. This was the go-to solution for those seeking a toothy smile. One of the most famous denture wearers of the time was George Washington himself. But these dentures were far from comfortable and caused his face to appear distorted. Maintaining teeth while still in one's mouth was not a well-developed practice. People would attempt to clean their teeth by rubbing them with a cloth soaked in salt water, adhering to the advice of the rules of civility and decent behavior. Dental care products like bristle toothbrushes did exist, but they were not widely utilized. Instead, people relied on tooth powders. These are made from various abrasives like eggshells, baking soda, and even gunpowder. To freshen their breath, they used aromatic ingredients such as cinnamon and musk. Dentistry of the 1700s was a far cry from the sophisticated procedures we know today. One of the early dental care providers is John Baker. He's known as a surgeon dentist, performed procedures akin to modern dental cleanings. Tartar was removed from teeth, and cavities were filled with lead or gold. But when tooth extraction was necessary, it's another story to tell. The extracted tooth might find itself back in the same person's mouth. It can also be gifted to someone else, or repurposed for denture use. Human teeth were a standard replacement for missing ones. Can you believe it? Obtained from various sources, including executed criminals and the deceased. In a time when dental hygiene was lacking, toothache remedies were anything but conventional. But how did the people of the 1700s tend to their pearly whites? Native Americans relied on sticks and herbs, while colonists did have toothbrushes but often brushed their teeth with charcoal. As we reflect on the dental practices of colonial America, we can't help but marvel at the ingenuity and resourcefulness of our ancestors. So the next time you visit your modern dentist, remember this? Take a moment to appreciate the advancements that have made dental care a far cry from the tooth pullers of yesteryears. Waste disposal. Step back to colonial America. A world where waste disposal was far from the modern conveniences we take for granted today. What solutions did they make to ensure hygiene and convenience in a world without flushing toilets? From ingenious solutions to startling archaeological discoveries, we'll unveil the hidden world of colonial waste disposal. Do you know outhouses? Well, those are simple structures with covered holes in the ground. They are sometimes placed in a common site behind colonial households. They served as the primary means of waste disposal. It provides a private space for individuals to relieve themselves. But imagine the challenge during cold nights or inclement weather. Not everyone can go outside. Well, the answer to that is the chamber pot. This ingenious invention came to the rescue, offering a more accessible solution for those unwilling or unable to go outdoors. Just place it near your bed for convenience at night. But what happened to its content after you used it? Brace yourself, as waste was often tossed out of windows or near the house. The consequences of such practices were dire, especially in rural areas where water sources were nearby. Contamination of streams, rivers, and lakes posed significant health risks. This reflects a stark contrast to our modern understanding of sanitation. Yet, beneath the layers of waste lies a fascinating world of history waiting to be unearthed. Excavations of privy shafts in urban centers like Philadelphia have revealed hidden treasures. These privies were like historical time capsules, containing a wealth of artifacts that offer glimpses into their daily lives. From glasses and bottles to bowls and tankards, the items uncovered tell stories of vibrant social lives. These privies were not just places of waste disposal. They held the secrets of culinary choices and the presence of local artisans. But before you recoil in disgust at the thought of privies, consider their importance in the context of their time. Flushing toilets as we know them were still a distant dream for colonial Americans. Latrines called privies were the norm, whether communal in towns or individual for rural households. These structures consisted of a small building over a hole in the ground, sometimes with decorative elements added. Toilet paper was non-existent, with people using a plant called lamb's ear for cleanup. As repulsive as privies may seem, they served a crucial function. But improper placement could lead to contamination of wells, resulting in gastrointestinal ailments. The hazards of waste disposal in colonial America were very real, underscoring the challenges they faced in maintaining cleanliness and health. In the unhygienic practices, archaeologists discovered a treasure trove of artifacts buried in privies near Independence Hall in Philadelphia. From broken cups and bowls to a typeface used at an early printing press, these privies preserved a fascinating array of historical items, allowing us to peer into the lives of colonial Americans, from those simple structures with covered holes to the marvel of flushing toilets. Our journey has been continuous improvement and innovation. The journey into colonial America's hygiene is far from over. In the next chapter, prepare to be amazed. The next remarkable historical insights await. Beard and hair care. Step back to the early days of North America, where the settlers were far from the clean-shaven gentlemen we know today. Smooth, hair-free faces were a rarity until the mid-18th century. Can you imagine a world where beards were the norm, and shaving was reserved for only the most skilled barbers? Picture yourself in a bustling colonial town, where men with flowing beards roamed the streets. If a man wanted a clean shave, he would seek out a barber, wielding a straight razor to achieve the desired look. But being a barber was seen as a lowly profession, tainted by racial implications. Many slaves served as barbers, while free non-whites took up the razor in a society that deemed white labor too valuable for such tasks. Now shift your attention to the women of colonial America. Women should show no significant amount of skin, so body hair removal was not a common practice. Even facial hair was left untouched, because shaving was considered dangerous and reserved for only the most experienced hands. So how did women maintain their appearance? Some would pluck unwanted hairs, while others turned to depilatory creams. Medical handbooks of the time contained recipes for these creams. These creams often included a somewhat toxic ingredient, arsenic. Yes, beauty came at a high price. As the colonies evolved into the United States, grooming habits changed. Men of status started paying more attention to their personal care, embracing the art of shaving. Various grooming products made the process more accessible, and by the mid-1700s, most men had bid farewell to their facial hair. But what about the ladies? Well, they had their methods of hair removal. Some continued to use depilatory creams, concocted from soap, limestone, and yes, arsenic. Others preferred the meticulous art of tweezing. This is to shape their hairlines to perfection with pincers carefully. While frequent hair washing was not a common practice, women still had their hair care routines. Daily maintenance involved combing away dead skin and redistributing natural oils. For upper-class women, pampering was in order. Imagine the evolution of grooming practices in colonial America. From bearded men to the rise of the clean-shaven look and the delicate hair care routines of the women. Secrets of 18th century powdered wigs. Picture yourself strolling through the cobblestone streets, surrounded by men and women adorned in these luxurious wigs, symbolizing wealth and power. But did you know that these wigs had a fascinating history tied to both fashion and hygiene? In the elite circles of the colonies, powdered wigs were the ultimate status symbol. The wealthy could afford these elaborate creations, earning them the nickname bigwigs. But what about the common folk? Well, the average American generally wouldn't be seen wearing such extravagant wigs. Instead, they embraced longer hair. This hair is often pulled back in ponytails, exuding a relaxed and laid-back vibe. Now let's delve into the origins of these powdered wigs. Initially, they were not just a fashion statement but served a practical purpose. A century earlier, powdered wigs were used to cover up the effects of syphilis. But during the 1700s, they transformed into a display of wealth and power, adorning the heads of military officers and aristocrats alike. Can you imagine the effort it took to maintain these wigs? They were a breeding ground for pesky head lice. One of the reasons people wore wigs was to escape the clutches of these unwelcome guests. With bathing being a rare luxury, lice found refuge in long hair. So people would opt for wigs, shaving off their natural hair for a more lice-resistant look. Yet even the wigs attracted bugs, drawn to the animal fat used in styling products. To keep their prized possessions pristine, wigs underwent regular treatments. For instance, wigs are sometimes boiled to rid them of lice. Fragrances like bergamot, bay leaves, and sassafras were used to repel bugs, making the wigs both stylish and bug-free. It's incredible to think of the intricate care these wigs demanded, with people sending them out for regular cleaning or relying on servants to dress them. So next time you complain about your modern grooming routine, take a moment to appreciate the fascinating history of powdered wigs. The hard work behind fresh fabrics. Laundry day was far from the simple chore we know today. Can you imagine the backbreaking labor that went into getting your linens or garments clean in the 18th century? Picture a dedicated room in a colonial household, usually near the bustling kitchen. Hard-working women, often servants, would tackle the daunting task of laundry. It was no easy feat, let me tell you. With the tools of the trade, lye soap, extensive washing and rinsing tubs, a hefty pot for boiling water, and various irons and brushes, they set out to conquer the mountains of soiled clothes. But how did they tackle different fabrics, you may wonder? Well, cotton and linens are notorious for trapping dirt and grime, required some serious muscle. The laundresses beat these fabrics with a small paddle, working until every speck of dirt was released. And let's not forget the boiling. Yes, they would boil those massive pots filled with clothes to ensure a thorough cleanse. But what about the more delicate fabrics like wool and silk? The laundry maids had their tricks up their sleeves. Fuller's earth clay is the answer. It is a magical substance that is used to absorb any oily residue from wool garments. And silk? Oh, it received the royal treatment. Spot clean with an array of peculiar ingredients, which include salt, chalk, turpentine, lemon juice, and even urine. Nothing was too wild in the quest for spotless silk. Now, imagine the sheer effort and dedication that went into their every laundry day. From the laborious beating of cotton and linens to the delicate spot cleaning of wool and silk, it was an art form. And while today we take the convenience of washing machines for granted, let's all pause and appreciate the hard-working women who toiled to keep their households clean and their fabrics fresh. As you fold your cleaned clothes, remember the labor of love that has shaped the history of laundry. It may be a chore, but it's also a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of our ancestors. Secrets of hygiene through fresh undergarments. Now picture yourself in colonial America, surrounded by men and women adorned in their finest attire. Among the well-to-do, a peculiar concept of hygiene prevailed. The idea was that wearing fresh undergarments was the key to cleanliness. In this colonial world, the importance of undergarments went beyond mere modesty. People believed that donning fresh undershirts, shifts, and other linens would absorb the sweat and grime from their skin, leaving them feeling refreshed and hygienic. The members of society were meticulous about their appearances, with supplies of clean undergarments laid out daily to ensure they remained immaculate. One prominent figure who epitomized this obsession with cleanliness was Alexander Hamilton himself. He is renowned for his intellect and contributions to the nation's founding. Hamilton also stood out for his belief in the power of fresh undergarments. During hot weather, he would change into clean linens many times daily. This is a practice that set him apart from his contemporaries. For the wealthy elite, being clean was not a matter of personal comfort. It was a way to flaunt their social status. The crisp, unsoiled white linens peeking out of collars and shirt cuffs became a symbol of ostentatious cleanliness. It is a display of wealth and privilege that separated them from the lower classes. But this fixation on appearances wasn't limited to just the undergarments themselves. It extended to the way linens were shown off, with fashionable trends emerging that accentuated one's cleanliness. The wealthy would display their pristine linens, allowing them to peek out from collars and cuffs, signaling to society that they were hygienic. So, next time you slip into a fresh pair of undergarments, take a moment to reflect on the intriguing history of personal hygiene and its role in shaping the social fabric of colonial America. The layers of clean linens tell a tale of elegance and extravagance, revealing a fascinating chapter in the ever-evolving story of human hygiene. If you enjoyed this video, check out the next one for more interesting historical facts.